Welcome back to the show, folks. Tuesday morning after the bank holiday, another Shankly sessions, another frustrating episode. Where do we begin with this one? Hope you all had a great weekend and a safe bank holiday weekend as we push towards the start of the season. Congratulations to Arsenal, of course, on winning the Community Shield in such dramatic fashion. Always nice sometimes to kind of win that way, just taste that little bit sweeter. People moaning about the level of the celebration and stuff like that, but when you win something, you're right to celebrate, and especially when it's against Man City, who've been so dominant and stuff like that. We bet them last year in the Community Shield, so when you think about it, I don't know how much water it holds when you push into the season, and of course we know that winning the Community Shield rarely leads to success in the season ahead and stuff like that, but we shall see. Certainly Arsenal have done the right things and putting some of the pieces in place for success and stuff like that. But let's get back to this Liverpool situation. It's grinding my gears now. I'm absolutely fed up really at this stage, you know what I mean? Staring into a really, really tough season ahead, I would imagine. But I wanted to talk something that I seen on the internet there yesterday. I think it was on Twitter, or an article that I read or something like that. FSG now have actually become our rivals. That's a statement, isn't it? To think that now the threat to our success is from within. It's not external, because literally our success comes from within. And if we do the right things, or did the right things, if we made the right investment, if we brought in the investment that we need to fix up this so-called rebuild and stuff like that, then we'd have a fantastic chance of success. And we've seen it when we do the right things, we can compete with the top teams. We can get to these finals. Now, we know a final can often be kind of a lottery and a bit of luck and stuff like that, and you have to try and get over the line. Doesn't always guarantee it, but at least if you're in a final, you're there or thereabouts. We know how dramatic the drop-off was last season from the quad attempt year, if you like, ending on 2 domestic cups. Really, really disappointing. No league, no Champions League. And so we stared into last season with some hope, with some optimism, and maybe a little trepidation in terms of players that we didn't bring in, and the neglect of the midfield over the last 5-6 transfer windows, all that kind of thing. But all that stems from within. And at the moment, looking from the outside in, FSG have been very clever last season in the way they went about things. They had the fan base calling for Klopp's head, and there's certainly a fractured relationship there between Klopp and the owners. There's no doubt about it. In my mind now, I can see it, and I can see it to the point even that only for FSG would know that the wave would be tidal size if they sacked Jurgen Klopp. That's the only thing that's really holding there, because let's be honest there, if it was any other manager who hadn't brought us the level of success, who doesn't have that love and bond with the club, the players and the fans, they probably would have sacked him last season, and I firmly believe that. But there's definitely a fractured relationship there now, and I think the appointment of Jörg Schmadtke or whatever his name is, and him being Klopp's kind of buddy, I wonder at FSG all in on this now as kind of a smoke screen to turn around and go, well, to hide behind the lack of investment. Are they going to let this guy comes in, he's on a trial basis, which we're going to have a conversation about that first of all. This club the size of Liverpool bringing in a director of football on a trial basis, and all the other backroom stuff that's going on. We'll talk about it during this episode. But are they really looking at that and saying, okay, well, we can use this as a rod to beat Klopp with? Because if this doesn't work out and Klopp shows the same level of stubbornness in terms of signings, we seen it last year, the denial of needing a midfielder to the point of pressing the button on an Artemelo. And let's be honest, last year's transfer window literally is a sackable offence. It was so bad. So bad. So when we talk about it this year, we look at the transfers that have come in. You look at McAllister coming in, very good signing, release clause, easy deal. So Szoboszlai coming in, not so much a release clause, but they stood tall. They told him what the price was, triggered the price, brought him in. Maybe it was a release clause, who knows. Didn't seem like a very tough deal to do, to be honest. But then we go and we look at an actual deal that needs a bit of negotiation, that needs the strength maybe of a Michael Edwards, as we've seen in the past, who we no longer have. And we look at that deal and we think, well, this is 3 bids gone in now. We're fapping around here. We haven't had a DM all summer. Some would argue we barely had a DM all last season. You know, Fabinho gone has kind of rattled a few things, because I think we were expecting to bring in a DM to work alongside Fabinho to smooth in that kind of situation. Now you look at Lavia, Southampton know their price. We know Southampton's price for various reasons. We know there's a buyback clause in Man City. We know there's probably a sell-on clause as well. So Southampton want their fee. And in a really, really poor Saints season, he was one of the shining lights. Now, whether he's going to be able to make the step up to a Liverpool that wants to challenge on all fronts is a very different question. Some would argue he's only a project, and rightly so. But he is a very, very talented boy who has a very, very high ceiling and could become one of the best DMs in the world under Liverpool Football Club with Jurgen Klopp, if used in the right way. So I think ultimately what will happen here is we'll end up paying the piper. We'll end up looking foolish instead of just getting the job done and getting him in time. He probably won't be available for the Chelsea game, because we know it's going to take 2 days. Even if you push the button today, there's a medical to be done today, and then the announcement tomorrow, and then, you know, moving up to Liverpool and trying to get settled and all that kind of thing. And we're away at Chelsea and stuff like that, and we know the way Jurgen likes to slide these players in and introduce them slowly. He'll have no playing time, no pre-season, so it's going to take time for him to bed in. So it's going to be a difficult one. So we're staring into the first game of the season with no recognised DM. So then when you talk about pre-season, sorry, just before we get on to that, let's talk about Klopp's comments where he's searching for a formation for the Chelsea game. I can't believe these are the things that are said. And not only that, then they have to find a formation then for the rest of the season. Now, isn't that the most worrying statement you've ever heard? So let's get into pre-season. I think people know my thoughts now on pre-season. The level of talent, of competition that we faced, I thought was really, really poor. 3 Bundesliga 2 teams. A Leicester team absolutely smashed most of its talent. And then we stepped up into a Bayern Munich team. And we stepped up into that game. And we seen what's happened. When you go in against that bit of quality, the Gnabry's of this world, Kimmiches, all these kind of players and stuff like that. That's when you really feel where you gauge it, where you're at. And for us, the same problems remained. The high line, the going to sleep, the getting caught, the lack of organisation, the lack of leadership, all those kind of things that we spoke about last season. Still a problem. Still a problem. And you look at the time that Szoboszlai and McAllister have had to play together, it's nowhere near enough for a pre-season when you're trying to rebuild a home midfield. Admittedly, Szoboszlai rolled his ankle, so he had to miss a game. But even in the structure of it at times, the structure of the teams that we played against those teams, at times was a little bit bewildering. At times when you're changing your team, trying Trent in a 6, forget about it. Trying Curtis in a 6, forget about it. And yesterday was kind of the tipping point for me yesterday. When I see Mac 10 going into a 6. And I see Gakpo going from a 9 to an 8. So now we're rejigging the team around. And we're playing players out of position. They can probably do a job. But is that where Liverpool is at in their pre-season and their preparation for a season that's a big season? Last year was a massive letdown. So this season is a huge season to get back on track. Everyone around us strengthening. Everyone around us spending money. Everyone around us bringing players in. And we're crowbarring players and testing the water on these things. And it's just so frustrating. And you can see it even yesterday against poor competition. Let's be honest, it's poor competition. You know what I mean? We could take out of it and talk about it all we want, but let's be honest, Darmstadt is nowhere near what our prep should be. And it's all well and good the romance of Klopp and his ex-teammate and buddies and all that kind of thing and all. That to me is all nonsense way of going about your business. And I think it's really, really important. I think it's really, really important that we recognise those things. And then you look at the Lavia deal and how serious we are about it, and the smoke screen of this guy Andre in South America and all that. And it was absolute bullshit, and it just makes us look silly and stupid. Oh, we're pursuing other options, or we're looking at other options. No, we're not. Klopp decides on a player that he wants. He sticks to that player to the detriment of the team. He sticks to that player through his own stubbornness and will not move off it. We know that Jorg wanted to bring in Thuram. We know he wanted to bring in Kone. You know, and obviously they've been blocked. Obviously they're not coming in, but those were his recommendations. You know, so we have kind of a fractious relationship at the moment at all levels here at the moment in the club. Now you look internally at the club and what has happened. 2 directors of football have exited the building. Like, at what point does the director of football at Ajax look a bigger job than the director of football at Liverpool, to the point where Julian Ward wants to walk out the door? We lost our club doctor. We lost our data and analytics people. I'm hearing yesterday now we're now losing the guy that's responsible for these global partnerships, something we've been very good at in terms of generating revenue and partnerships and all that kind of stuff. Now he's going. So what's the real issue here at Liverpool? You know, so much turnover in the backroom staff, which leads to instability. We've seen the issues last year where it took us over 6 months to get a club doctor in. Amateur error all the time, level by level by level. You know. So where does it leave us? It leaves us now heading into a Premier League. Again, not prepared, not covered. We've got a bench that has a massive drop off in quality. And I don't want to disrespect any of those players, but let's be honest here, we're a Kanate or a Van Dijk injury away from a disaster. So let's be honest, if our answer to them is Joel Matip or Joe Gomez, we may throw our hat at it, because they're just simply not good enough. And then you wonder how this transfer window has gone and where the money has gone. We've seen how the Tchouaméni money suddenly just evaporated into a shitty loan deal for Artem Melo. We've seen how the pursuit of Jude Bellingham was all a load of bullshit all last season. That all the selfies and all the talk and all the moonlighting and all that kind of stuff was all just bullshit at the end of the day. We've seen that the interest that we expressed in Levi Colwell, he looked at Liverpool's situation and he goes, I think the tough situation at Chelsea is better for me. Signs a 6-year deal. And is this because these guys looking from the outside in know the true situation and the true story, and their agents are, advising them going, you don't want to go there, it's a mess? Is that the case? We're staring into the season starting now with the bench. Thiago still recovering, Bejetic still recovering, and our cover at the moment, the drop off is quite shocking. The one shining light that's come out of pre-season, amongst all the frailties that was there, are when we drop goals, we go into the same thing again, we lose our formation. We lack so many things on the pitch. Once our heads go down, leadership is invisible, all that kind of stuff. We named our 2 captains, captain and vice captain, potential questions over both. Arguably two of the players last season that probably let us down somewhat the most. Van Dijk's drop off was sensational. Trent, until he was inverted, was a disaster. These boys get rewarded with captaincies. How does that feel? How does that make Alisson feel? Who was our player of the season? Who you could argue has maybe been our player of the pre-season. How does Mo Salah feel about that? Not the guy to harbour a problem and stuff like that. Mo Salah, as professional as he is, will get on with what he's doing. But then we're hearing these rumblings coming out about Mo Salah. You know, and the agent coming out and saying, oh no, why would we have signed a new deal if the thoughts was you wanted to go and all this kind of thing. I don't believe a word out of an agent. I'll never believe a word out of an agent's mouth. What I do know about Mo Salah is, I know that Mo Salah is highly ambitious. I know that Mo Salah wants to win things. I know that Mo Salah recognises that he only has another maybe 2 to 3 years at the top level in him. And he has performed very, very well, even in poor performances by Liverpool. He's time and time again come up with the goods, but is nowhere near hit the heights he would expect to hit in his own mind. You've seen the tweets came out at the end of the season about how disappointed he was in his season and how the drop off was, and how he called for changes at Liverpool Football Club, and he called for players that need to be come in and the squad to be refreshed. And we heard that from a number of players. We heard it from Ibu Konate. So the issues of last season are not a secret. You know, they're visible and they're there for everyone to see, and they were identified, and the players knew it, we knew it, the board knew it, the manager knew it. And here we find ourselves starting the season without a recognised DM. So questions have to remain over that, you know what I mean? It's a real shit show at the moment at Liverpool. Difficult to see what we're going to try and hit this season, where things are going to come from, how we're going to compete. You know, the gaffer, based on last season, looks like he's ran out of these miracles that he can perform. So where do we go from here? I have to say it's not a season I'm looking forward to. I think it's going to be more of the same. I think we're going to find it very difficult to compete. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if Liverpool end up finishing somewhere around 7 or 8. Because I don't think they've done anywhere near the kind of business they were expected to do. And actually looking at it, I think with the bench and with everything else and all, I think we might be slightly in a worse position. I just think if you look at Jurgen Klopp's style and you look at the way Liverpool goes about it, it's always very functional as a unit, and it's always about the sum of the parts as opposed to any individual thing. It's about how we move forward as a unit, it's about how we defend as a unit, it's about all those things. It's not about, like, you know, that one star that's in there, that Ronaldo or that Messi or whatever it is. It's about all those players collectively. And I think in a few key areas, and especially the DM area, which is so key on the pitch, we haven't done what it takes. And I think even if Lavia comes in, I don't think we've done what it takes. Is Lavia going to play 40, 50, 60 games this season? I don't see it. If he gets injured, then what are we back doing? Kill McAllister off and put him in a 6. Kill Gakpo off, put him in an 8. You know, it's nonsense. At this level, it's nonsense. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. That's my thoughts on this Tuesday morning. I think we're way off the mark. I think we're going to struggle. And let's see what happens. Until next time, folks, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification. This has been the Shankly Sessions. The war with Liverpool is very much internal, and that's where our rivals are. Our rivals are actually FSG. Cheers, folks.